character.
Yep, it was.
I love the, yeah. I think, oh, I like this cool character. So I got the recording on, buddy. Are you good with that? Do you see it? Is it on for you there?
It's on. Yep, it's
Great.
on. And
So the reason for that, yeah, talk to me.
Why do you use Meetin?
Why do I use Medium?
Yeah.
Yeah. One, I just hate Zoom. So I'd use anything besides Zoom and webinar. Just kidding. I started using Medium because I know the guy who like developed it from a long time ago. And it's like 7 years to develop. And I just started using it. And then I didn't use anything for a long time. And then Zoom is Zoom. And it's, it does its job. But I basically got, to be honest with you, I've got like a lifetime plan with these guys. Because I came on board at the very beginning and I have like the max level for the max efficiency for the one price. And they've been really good to me. And to be honest, it's worked really well it's really worked well for what I need and my basic stuff. So that's why I've stayed with it. So what's your thoughts on Medium? Have you used it before?
I think I've been in a meeting with it before with somebody else, but I just like to understand why people use different things and see what's the most beneficial and what's helpful. So
yeah, like I said, I have like the top tier for these guys, and it does a lot more than Zoom, and the price point is so good. Even if you come on as a user now at this stage, they were on something called AppSumo for a while. Had a great lifetime price. AppSumo is like a software or plus, but it's great and it always works. Never had any problems. Zoom, I've never had really bounced. Never had problems. I can't complain about Zoom. It's just quite pricey. And I get lots of spam. What makes me angry about Zoom now is I get so many spam invites. And I've got into their forum and said, listen, I didn't enjoy any of these. And I keep getting invites from Zoom users, and they don't have a spam way to get out of the spam. So you have to like either unsubscribe, which tells the subscriber that, okay, he still can subscribe, send you stuff. And you just have to like, just not go to it. So that's what I like about Zoom is to this point where it's a bit frustrating that I get so much spam from Zoom. And when you get spam from, what's the other big player in the webinar world is Webinar. What's that one called? I'm sure you've seen it a million times. It's been around forever. GoToWebinar. They have a button that says when you get like so many invites that you're not invited, that you didn't sign up for, they usually have at the bottom saying, this is spam. And I like that much better. So a long answer there. Meeting is just a good value for what it does, and it does. I think I have like 1,000 people on this or something like that. So I would recommend them. I'm not a power user of Zoom or a power user of Meeting. It's just been really, really, really efficient for me. So except I forget to turn a recording on. There's probably a function that turns recording on automatically, but I just haven't figured it out. I just have to hit the record button.
No problem.
Hey, so tell me, let's get on to you, man. So again, thanks for really getting the form completed so quickly. Great story, man. Wow. I mean, you should be telling me things. I don't need to listen. You don't need to listen to me ranting on. Let me pull that up for a second, if you don't mind. And let's see how I can. Yeah, please start.
Did they forward, or did I send you my my business plan?
No, I didn't get your business plan.
Okay,
no.
Well, I sent it to people who had emails at the time.
Okay.
Everything. So I do have a business plan, and in the business plan there is franchise or licensing type stuff that I have.
Oh, okay.
Part of my thing already is just I don't know how to do that yet, okay. Or what I need to be able to do that. So okay. I will send that to you later.
Okay. Let me just a quick look here just to make sure I didn't get it. I did get the intake form, which is automated, so it goes to the right automation channels, and then I get a trigger, and I get a copy of that. So I did get that immediately.
One thing you may want to tell them to put on that form is a place where people could put attachments.
That's a good idea. Good idea.
Because if you can put attachments, then it augments things and it makes it easier to get to the people it needs to. So,
where did you? Sorry, go back to that. That's a great idea because I have received separate emails from participants that were attachments. They would just email me directly, but it was not part of the application or the intake form. So that's a grand idea. Where did you? Do you know where you sent that? And I can see if I can I don't
Well,
have access to everything.
So I sent it to Robert and to Robert's the one who did
It's
my
me.
cells, and then Janet. I sent it to both of them because I had their email addresses. I didn't have Paul's email address, and at the time I didn't know about you. So
That's my problem, John. No one knows about me. That's where I am
that's
today.
my problem.
I don't think so. Done great. Let me come back to that for a second. You didn't send it to me. I'm Robert. You maybe sent it to Rick. Did you send it to
I'm
Rick?
not. I'm Rick. Rick. I'm sorry, Rick.
That's okay. That's
Robert.
okay.
You are
I just want
Robert.
to make sure it was in my spam folder. So to Rick and what address did you have for Janet?
Let me go to my sent.
Because her actual email address is not public. It'd be very difficult to get to her.
So
Maybe.
I don't know if I sent it to her. Hers was well. It's at connect at it's a
That's okay.
it's a standard.
Yeah, that.
So I don't have her direct email, but I can send this to you now.
Yeah, I don't think we'll have time to go over it right now.
Yeah, I'll just forward it to you.
Yeah, but please send it to me while you remember. It's better to do that, of course.
There we go.
Okay. Well, I'll leave it up to you if you want to go over that. We can go. I was going to go over your intake form. It looks like it's pretty doggone complete. I'm happy just to fill in the gaps or discuss a few things. Let me take a step back and tell you how this whole thing works, and then you'll know how I fit in and what everything fits in. I just got it from you. Okay. Great. Yeah. Perfect. So I do have that. Here's how this works, John. You jumped in so fast, you're probably like, "Whoa, what happened? This guy's already texting me. This is crazy." So you did the intake form so quickly, and that's the first step. And so what that is now is the support person. I think it's going to be Megan will reply to you and give you a time with Janet and Paul together. Right? They'll be together meeting with you 2-to-1.
I appreciate the fact that it's 2-to-1 rather than having to go through it separately. I think there's more synergy happens like that. Yep.
Well, it's an interesting point, and that's exactly why they've done that. The challenge has been you can't always get them together.
Sure.
So some people have had to wait weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks. Sometimes I think some has been waiting as long as 6 weeks to meet, maybe even 8 weeks. But they fixed that. So they've opened up like this. Actually, Janet and Paul are on calls this weekend also because they want to make sure people get that conversation going with both of them together. And this is an interesting point you make because I'll come up with some ideas. And my idea is to get you sort of pointed in the right direction, give you all the tools you need, make sure you're getting going right, and make sure everything's complete for Janet and Paul. What I try not to do on the first call, I always have ideas. Sometimes I can't hold back, but they may have something different than my ideas of views. And you said interesting to them together in one. But I let them do the big heavy hitting and the grand kind of prospecting, right? Or sort of pointing you in the right direction. I like to come on board and just have this overview with you, tell you what's going to happen in the program, and then submit that form and get you on board with Janet and Paul as soon as possible. Okay. So if you're open to weekends, that's great because I'll give them some times, more options for you to meet up. You probably won't hear from support until I think it's a big holiday Monday, right? It's
Labor Day.
Yeah, Labor Day. So Megan probably won't get back to you until Tuesday, maybe Wednesday, but probably Tuesday to get some times in the books. So my role is to be just like this. You completed the intake form. Let's go over it. If you want to chat about it, anything you want to cover, anything you have questions about, we can do that. You send me your business plan. That's great. I can look at that. I can give you some feedback on that. And then go over the program, how it's going to unfold for you for the 6 months. And obviously, I want to hear what your plans are. I want to hear I'm doing a little chat talking here, but I'm going to shut up soon. And and I'm handing over to you, and you're going to tell me where you're going with this. Okay. So step 1, intake form done. Step 2, get on the phone with me on a video call like this, and we chat and we get you pointed so you know where everything is on the platform and things like that. Third, you're going to have this call with Janet and Paul, soon to be. Just you'll organize that with Megan. So here's where you get more time face to face with Paul and or Janet. If you when you log into the portal, you'll see on the very top something called group advisory calls. You may have already seen that. And the next one is, in top of my brain, is September 12th, I believe at 12:30 and that will be with Paul. And that's like a group call with Paul and or Janet. This one will be with Paul. And on the call could be anywhere from 5 people to 15 or 20. It's not a big group at this very moment. It's now all of a sudden ramping up. But you can get a chance to listen to what they have to share, what they're talking about, where they're taking the program, how they can help you. But they also open it up for you to ask any questions that you may have regarding your personal situation. And that happens about twice a month with Janet and or Paul. And we meet once a month to sort of top it up. I'm here like a bit more than a coach. I do have, I have knowledge and experience, but I'm the coach. I'm the support person. I'm your advisory. I'm your mentor. I'm like the guy that can fill in the gap from what the strategy you may be working on, or maybe you've taken a different twist or something changed, and to help and to support Paul and Janet over that time. And I meet with you once. Right now the plan is once a month. You and I will meet for 30 minutes. Okay. This call is a bit longer, for about an hour, just to get us dialed in, meet and greet. And then we take it from there. I think logistics wise, I think that's it. The portal is not, there's 16 modules, a lot of content in there. I would, as you probably just started looking at the content, going through it, you don't have to complete that anytime now, but just to get an idea of what's in there. Janet Paul puts so much content, and to get your mind thinking about things along those lines. And there's some recordings from the past group advisory calls. You can just take a double speed on those and listen to those. Some are more very specific. Some may not apply to you. Some may apply to you right now. Normally it is Janet and Paul on those calls. I've done one as a backup. I think it was because they wanted to add an extra bonus one in there, and Janet and Paul wasn't available. But normally it'll be Janet or Paul on this call. So really, really good. If you can make them live, that would be great. If not, you can send your questions in to support, and they can forward them to Janet or Paul for the call. I think that's it from my side. John, is there? So let me throw it over to you and answer any questions you have. We can go through your intake form. We can go through your business plan. How would you like to tell me where you are first? What brought you in to Replicate? Why are you here?
Good question. So my whole life has been one intuitive moment after another. And I started, I recognized that it started when I was 9 years old, and I ended up in the theater for 10 years. Okay. And then I had a very unique background, just the fact that my parents entertained a lot. So we always had somebody different, somebody new at our dinner table. So it was like the United Nations table. We had Navajo foster brothers, humanitarian refugees, international exchange students, family. They have 10 people had their house burned down, so they lived with us for a while. So just lots of people. My dad would just pull somebody off the street sometimes, or he's a doctor and he'd meet somebody at the emergency room or whatnot. Wow. Anyway, so I just got a very good understanding about culture and how everybody is different. And when we don't, when we're not put into a place where we have to deal with differences, we think that our way of thinking is the way. And along with the United Nations dinner table, by the time I was 22, I had traveled to 19 countries, all 50 states, and 8 provinces and territories in Canada. And so that gave me a real good understanding of how other people live and how things, come together. The theater aspect was really interesting for me as a 9-year-old. I recognized right away that I was in a community, and that the community was really vibrant. And as I've done business throughout my career, I go back to the theater model. And the thing is, you've got this city that has a mayor, and the mayor is the director, and the director is the one who sets the stage for everything, and is the one who, you know, is important in making sure that everybody feels like they're included. Everybody feels like their part is something that's necessary, and that as a good director does, they pull everybody together, and it's not just the people whose names are on the marquee that matter, but it's really the people who do the costumes, till 3 a.m, the people who do lights and sound and stage sets, and the music, and whatnot. Everybody is a part of that community, and everybody's important. So being in the green room was really a vivid example in regards to, if everybody's gelling, everybody's really, tight knit together, they're just excited, it's palpable, that it's going to be an A+ show. But if there's any jealousies, if there's people who are backbiting, just trying to one up each other, then it's going to be, a B or B- or whatever, show. And so that feeling that came from the director was really important. So in putting that into a leadership context, it's I help leaders understand where they fit in and how they move forward. So the audience that I'm going after right now is those executives that have moved from like a vice president or a manager position to a senior vice president, executive vice president, or COO position. And at this point, people are going from managing 10s to 20s, of people, to now managing hundreds of people that are probably across borders, time zones, cultures, and languages. And so they have a whole slew of things. What got them to that point is not going to keep them in that point. They need to excel. They need to create something more beneficial and more meaty for them to be able to meet the people where they are at. So 3 years ago, I was involved with Jack Canfield. It was actually 4 years ago that I started writing a book, and Jack Canfield was one of my coaches and a mentor. And just an interesting thing about Jack is that the first time that I met him on a Zoom call, I was living in Doha, Qatar at the time, and he says, "John Taylor McEntire." He goes, "We're the same." And I said, "What are you talking about, Jack?" And he goes, "I was born John Taylor Canfield."
That's funny.
And his nickname came from his aunt, who had supported him to go through. She had a son named Jack, and that he died tragically. But she put the money that was going for his schooling to Jack, and that's how Jack got to military school and then got to Harvard and all this stuff. So anyway, with Jack, I got involved with his success principles, and I became a success principles methodology trainer. And when you look at the success principles, that I have a program called Sync, SYNC, synchronize yourself naturally within your community. And the yourself part is it has the components like what comes out of the success principles to make a leader a leader. And so the yourself part, which is personalizing things, how do I become the best leader, is what I work with there. Because of my international background and my understanding of culture and the necessity for trying to make cohesive environments so that people's cultures can mesh together well, that a lot of that comes from my time when I spent in Japan. So I was in college for a semester, and then I went to Japan as a missionary for my church, was there for a couple of years. And then this was right at the start of Japan's heyday. And I thought I wanted to be a consultant. And so I changed my major to Japanese business and Asian studies. And with Asian studies, I studied Korean and Mandarin at the same time. And so with the Japanese, what I learned from Japan was, here you have Tokyo, one of the largest cities in the world, and it is like has no chaos. it's just such a tight knit community, and the trains are just completely on time. Everything just works well, and I always thought, why is it that they can live so well together? And it's because of the underlying consensus building tools that they have. So when you think about, you've probably heard Ikigai. Yeah, Ikigai, and then also Kaizen and Six Sigma, and these are all elements that come from Japan, but it's all from the consensus building concept. And so that consensus building concept is the synchronized part, and what needs to synchronize is both the cultural side but also the language side. So I help people break the curse of Babel inside their organizations. And what the curse of Babel is that that when you have an organization, the larger the organization gets, the more siloed it becomes. And so your accounting people are speaking accounting lingo. Your engineers are speaking engineering lingo. People on the factory floor speak what they speak. C-suite speaks its own language. And how do you make sure that everybody is speaking the same language? So I help people with a language alignment matrix and also a cultural alignment matrix. And so those are different aspects, along with understanding the orbs of influence around you within your core group, and then going to the outside group, the outside world. How do those intermesh, and how do you relate those things together? So then when it comes to naturalize, we have a lot of things available to us, but we don't often understand the value of them. So like history and culture that we learn in school or learn along the way, or learn about a new community, a new culture, those things are really important. But the East versus West way of thinking are very different. The way that people are educated in the East versus the West, especially the United States. And so the Eastern mentality is, especially in the Asian context and Arab context, you have these leaders, these masters, sensei, that you're receiving something from them. They're your mentor, they're your teacher. You don't question them when you're in with them. You absorb and such. But when you're in a Western environment, you're expected to ask questions and to keep it very provocative. And so when I help leaders understand how they work with these different types of people, the different ways that they grew up, to make it so that it's easier for them to communicate and get their what they need put across, but also get those people to feel like they can add value and such. So the naturalized part is partly that education, that historical context, that cultural context, but it's also the fact that we all have intuition that that we can use, and it's how do you utilize that to the best of your ability? How do you hone those skills and such? Community, to communitize is basically, how do you bring in the familial aspects of something, but remove the silos? My time in especially the Arab region helped me understand that having teams and tribes is all good and everything, as long as it doesn't go into a silo mentality. So somehow we need to make sure that we're working within the context that the community is important, but we need to make sure the community is whole and not bifurcated or trifurcated, whatever you want to do. So that's my method, and I basically created this over 35 years of having worked abroad and worked in many different cultural contexts.
So. Terrific, man. I love it. And you've been applying this at this point, you've come to replicate because it's time that you have enough, it's tight enough that you're ready to put it into play officially, or how can Replicate support you on where you are at this point?
So doing this as my full-time gig has been difficult, trying to find the right clientele. And I have been utilizing it. I have had some clients and everything, but it hasn't been enough to completely validate everything. That needs to be done. But so my intuition tells me that I'm on to something really big here. And that I've put in, my wife's been very supportive. We put in, our life savings into this, and it's been difficult, but we're just, pushing forward. And I know that the franchising part is something that is valuable and is something that I need to be doing. I see this. Let me tell you the vision. So I worked in a field called technology transfer, and I don't know if you've ever heard of that before.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Okay. And so I worked for a lot of major research universities, national laboratories, for foundations of countries and such, and helped them put together innovation ecosystems to help transfer the technology that came out of their research results. And so, as somebody who dealt with originally the software, IT related technologies back in the 90s, with the University of Illinois, that ultimately helped me get into every field because IT touches everything, whether it's, data or AI or whatever, it touches everything. So I've really managed technologies in every sector, and had to find people to license things in every sector. And over time, of course, you do license some things to existing companies, but often the technologies that really are worth something go to startup companies. And so I've been involved with a number of different startup companies, hundreds of startup companies, and licensing these things to them, being on their boards, helping them move things along, and helping them understand that negotiations is always a mutual activity. If there's ever a clear winner, then it's not a winning game. It needs to be something that's level, and that everybody feels like they've won in that situation, and they appreciate that. So with these startup companies, of course, many fail. But the ones that go forward, they go into either an IPO category or into an acquisition. And what I've been really distraught's kind of a too big of a word, but just uncomfortable with the fact that these acquisitions take place. And what normally happens is that the acquiring company, it's usually a really large company, and it's traded on the stock market. And when they have this buyout of this smaller company, there's usually a big spike in regards to the stock. And then what happens is that the founders of the acquired company, the smaller company, they usually do really well. But their team that's helped them get to that point, they're often left in limbo. And a lot of what these large organizations are buying is not just the product and the service. It is also the fact that there's a lot of ingenuity and creativity and innovation in that team. And so they want
commitment and devotion, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. All those things. You've got the picture. And so what I feel is missing, because usually about 4 years, 5 years out after the acquisition, after the excitement's gone, things the product and service, may be going forward in doing what it needs to, but in regards to the stock value of that company, it usually goes down lower than it was originally. And this is because they haven't really captured that. And so my goal is to have what are called Kizuna Nexus centers. And Kizuna is a word that means community and everything, and a nexus means to change up. But there's a system in Japan, a philosophy in Japan, I should say, that's called nemawashi. And what nemawashi is, ne is root, and mawasu is to dig around the roots. So you have these people like, the Karate Kid. You had Mr. Miyagi, who was always clipping the bonsai trees, and what they do is that they're clipping and binding and making it so these trees are really tight and they stay small, dwarf, and everything. But they're really beautiful. But they're not just beautiful because of what they do on the outside. They're beautiful also because of what they do with the roots. And so as they dig the roots around the roots, they're giving air and breathing room, and so that they can actually grow better. And so when they're moving one plant from one pot to another pot or plot, they're taking soil from that new place and bringing it in, let it ruminate for a while. And after that rumination, then they'll take it and transplant it. And that makes it so it has less trauma when it's going to that new place. So with that same concept, this Kizuna Nexus Center would be doing this nemawashi type activity. And I bring in the C-suite from the acquirer and the C-suite from the acquired together for a week or 2 weeks, and ultimately let them we rejigger this new mission and vision so that everybody feels all encompassed and that they feel like they can go forward. What often happens with these larger organizations is that the people in a larger organization, they feel threatened by these new people, okay, and by the ingenuity and such. And so these antibodies come out and they start eating things alive. And that's what kind of makes people leave and want to get out of there. And so, how do you make it so that everybody feels like their piece of the puzzle can actually interact with the others and they're not going to get eaten alive? I know whenever there's an acquisition, there's always going to be somebody who loses out, but there needs to be a little bit better playing field for people to understand and leaders to understand how they actually work with that. So this Kizuna Nexus Center is going to be a place where people would go and have these. It would be Japanese bungalow style, Japanese bungalows that they would stay in, and then have all the nice meeting facilities and the regular salon type facilities and such. To have it be a very relaxing and empowering place. Now that center is specifically made for that purpose, but it would be used for people from school boards to board meetings of organizations, companies, schools, churches, synagogues, mosques, whoever is trying to get their community together, it would be a place for them to go, even family reunions, if you will. But my goal is to have 3 of these that I own myself. One would be in the US, one would be in Japan, and one would be in Italy. My wife is Japanese, but her favorite place to travel is in Sicily. so it would be in Sicily. And then my goal is to franchise those out so that others could take on that, as well as the sync method would be franchised out.
Gotcha. Great. Wow. So a few questions, if you don't mind, John. The organizations that have you found organizations? So it's going to be unique organizations that's open to this, right? Because the merger sort of M&A thing and acquisition and technology transfer. My background is in engineering, and I was in a startup in Oxford, and that was a startup I was part of, and we were acquired, right? And a lot of people did really well, and so, but a lot of people don't, right? People, the founders make the big dollars, a few of us make, little money, but I understand that transfer of technology, which is no different than what you're talking about. But I understand when someone gets merged or bought, what happens and how that looks. And that's interesting because it can be quite brutal. That whole exchange and that purchase. It's exciting for the founders, of the CEOs and the COOs of the smaller company. Blah blah blah. They walk away with multi-millions of dollars. But what is your feeling about how would you find an organizations that are open to your methodology? It's really cool. I love it. I love how you got a lot of soft skills there that everyone seems to step around. Have you done any research, or do you just get a sense of your intuition again that this is obviously it's needed, but where's your impetus that's like, well, this besides being needed, have you get a sense that this is like just on the cusp and you're ready to introduce this, or where gives you impetus to think, okay, I can be the forerunner of this concept?
So I have done research. I look at what the bigger players are doing in management stuff, and most of what they're doing is in regards to the practical skills, the tools that help people in accounting and the normal team building stuff and the normal the normal organizational type activities and such. What these groups don't have is really very much to do with cultural intelligence and emotional intelligence, and those are the things that are really missing right now in our life. So I look at like the U.S. and you have the red and blue, and I think that is really it's a disservice to the majority of the people, because choosing a color, choosing a political party, and going with that political party no matter what is really not in the best interest of the average person. It should be something. This is partly, well, my favorite color is purple, but my favorite color is purple because it's a combination of the blue and the red, and so a lot of things just kind of come into play in regards to how this whole thing works. But I have done research in regards to it, and I have tried a number of different markets for this. And I'm getting more interest in it from the market that I'm in right now with these senior executives, although this is still fairly new for me and has not produced a sell yet for that. I do use this with individuals and with a not-for-profit group right now that I'm helping here in my area, and but I'm trying to figure out how to get this out there. So, part of it is the intuition that's driving this, but it's really, going through and doing the research, getting an understanding. When you look at DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and I think that the world is pretty similar to the U.S., although the U.S. is more combatant about it. The diversity, equity, and inclusion things that the corporations are using, it's more checkbox stuff. And the way I look at this is that when you look at everybody as a piece of the puzzle of life and a piece of the puzzle of the organization, then you try as a leader, we need to make sure that we give them margin around that. So, we have this piece that needs to be filled in that position. And then we have somebody that comes in like this, and they're bigger than that piece is. We need to give them some margin for them to, feel like they can actually add value to not only that piece, but to the whole organization, to make sure that they feel like they're part of the organization. Because otherwise they're going to feel that responsibility, and with a year or two, they're going to leave because they're going to be totally bored and they're not going to have anything else to do. So the leaders need to provide that margin around that And then by providing that margin and letting people feel like they're really a part of the organization that is beneficial, they're going to do their best. Just like what you were saying, before, you got people who are driven and who are just bought in. They're just so solidly in there. You want that. But when you look at people as a package, not just solving that one problem, but bringing their own way of thinking, their own way of speaking, their own way of viewing the world, they're able to bring in something that helps the organization just thrive. So my sync method, my book that I have that's coming out here soon, it goes through a course of inspire. Leaders need to inspire, they need to empower, and then they drive their organizations to thrive. And so all of this goes together. But when you're looking at, rather than checking boxes for what you're doing, if you actually see where there's value coming from these people with different points of view, different ways of thinking, different ways of meshing these different thinking tracks together, you're going to get much more value out of that and much more momentum out of that to be successful than the way that things are done right now.
Okay, so that's great. Wow. So how do you see, you have a clear vision of how do you see, just so you're clear on this, Replicate isn't really it's not about franchising.
It's about, okay, go ahead.
Yeah. Replicate, of course you can franchise. There's nothing wrong with franchising. Obviously it works. The Replicate is more designed to create like your model, and then you take your model and you replicate it through normally other individuals, like
that's what I'm saying when I say franchise.
Oh, okay, great. Okay,
we're on the same page. It's just I'm not using the same terminology that you would use.
That's okay. That's okay. Great. Just so, because really what Jen and Paul sort of stay away from is franchises, because that's a whole different game. But if you're using it in the sense of creating, replicating, or duplicating, or franchising, that's cool. I just wanted to be clear that franchising isn't really what this is about.
Yeah. So I think the reason why I say franchising is because the sync method is not a one size fits all type thing. It is a one system, one method that can fit everything, but it fits them in different ways. And so the reason why I say franchising and maybe, just licensing or just, everything is still going to be managed by the organization. So, so how we talk about it as a franchise or a license opportunity or as trainers within the organization, like I'm in Jack Canfield's world, and I'm a certified methodology trainer for him, and I've trained with him, helped him train, and so that's one way to look at it. I know there's other people like John Asseroff and others that do things even more than what Jack does in regards to that type of thing. So it's ultimately having those types of things, but I see different types of clientele that are in this whole package that are very vast and wide. So it's not just these business people, but it's also these people in these not-for-profits, these schools, these churches and everything. So that's where I see that these trainers would be trained to work in the different areas of where sync would help them. Okay. And so it's, I think we're saying the same thing. We're just using different terms that I need to understand what makes more sense. But
no, it's okay. That's a great explanation. I just wanted to make sure it's not a franchise. We're not teaching. We're not doing franchising. It's similar. It's just we don't go that far.
I want to have more quality control.
Yeah, of course.
Than maybe your own franchise does.
Yeah, your own franchise does. Yeah. No, that's all part of it. It's not losing control. It's just when you go to the terminology, if you use the word franchise in the legal world, then it's a whole different game, and there's a lot more regulation around that, especially in the U.S. with a franchise. But however you want to use that, it's okay. You can use the word franchise. Just want you to know it's not an actual legal structure of franchise. You're going to be doing where you have, of course, quality control. You're the boss. You've got the materials. Everything is you're the main man. You're the dude, man. But it's not an actual franchise where you legalize it. It goes to a legalized franchise system. That's all I wanted to be clear that it doesn't mean you give away your IP and then people do what the heck they want with it. No, that's not it.
So when I was at the Pacific Northwest National Laboratory, I got a certification as a certified patent valuation analyst.
I saw these great. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And that organization got me thinking about, he does everything in regards to this patent valuation stuff. And he puts a book out every year. And I just thought, it's really interesting how he has this group that he has all these certified people. And I was thinking, how did he create this thing? And I was always interested. I thought that's really a great business model. Someday I need to do something like that. And that's where I am right now. So
great. Well, this is also part of the program. You've invested in this with your model, and don't stress about any of that part, because you will work over the next 6 months or so. You're going to come up with you get clarity. You have clarity on what you want to do. The actual terms and how it looks is what Replicate's about. It's to help you put all this into play on a big scale or small scale, but at least do it quickly and accurately and in the best way possible. And that's what Janet Paul brings to the table. Is everybody's replication program and idea is different. Some people want 100,000 trainers out there. Some people want 10, right? Everyone's got their own mission, but the most important part is putting the pieces together in the beginning properly. That's where I didn't have any help. And everybody in the program has a completely different program, but the end result is they want to do the same thing, and nobody's right, nobody's wrong. It's just different, and it's cool because that's what makes it rather, actually very exciting to be working with all the cool people in the program, because everyone's has different goals, different missions, and different approaches. And you're really dialed in, and you have a great experience. One thing you bring to the table, John, is a lot of credibility, right? And you said the market. What market you said you work in? In this market you're in now? What market is that you're working in now?
The group, the right fit client that I'm going after is these leaders that have just moved to a senior position. So it's those vice presidents or senior vice president, executive vice president, and COOs. So they've gotten, what moved them to that point. They always excelled in their career and they were climbing up the ladder and everything. What moved them to that point is not going to keep them in that job. They need to be completely different. And so it's how do you make that change, that transformation, for them to become more of a global leader than this person who was just succeeding by pleasing his bosses at the time.
So it's not industry specific or niche specific. It's more about the level of the individual and the next step up, or is also okay.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, I've got a lot of activity in the the tech industry, but I don't think that this is tech specific, although it could be.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, John, I think at this point I've recorded this call. What I'm going to do is I get it transcribed, I get it put into a mind map, I have an overview done, and I have the key points done, and I submit this with your intake to Janet and Paul. And I make a few notes, and I'm also going to send. I haven't looked. We'll look over the second email you sent to me, and I'll make sure it gets directly to Paul and Janet. The connect thing is kind of it won't get lost. It might get lost. Well, it may or may not get lost, but probably not. We're not big enough to get lost in the mire. But I will make sure I personally send that to Janet and Paul for your call. Okay. So they'll have this call, your notes, your intake, the other email you sent me, and they'll have probably just a boatload of questions for you, or they'll have a boatload to share and a boatload of questions for you. I think you have some questions for me.
I would
happy to
like to
answer anything
know.
for you.
You
Yeah.
you mentioned a couple times that you wish that there was something like what Janet and Paul are offering when you were doing your own thing. Can you tell me about your own thing that you did?
Yeah, sure. So I've been in and out of Spain, as I said many times, and I bought some IP. I licensed some IP from a company in the U.S. and I took that IP and the gentleman the IP I bought it from had a real international reputation, but his base was America, and he wanted to expand globally. But he didn't want to hire. He didn't want to have teams. He didn't want to go through all. He had a lifestyle business, but it was great. It's a coaching business, coaching like learning and development business. And he wanted to go international, but he didn't want to have the headaches of managing giant teams of people and blah blah blah, or franchising it. Funny enough, he didn't want to franchise it. He wanted to kind of certify people with his IP. So I bought his IP for. He sold it to the countries based on their language. So I had his IP for Ireland, Greece, Holland, Italy, and Spain. There's 5 countries I bought the IP for. And then so what I knew with the IP that what it did is help me launch into the business because he had a great database, a great name, and a reputation. I said I knew whatever I bought that license from him, I'd have an automatic connection to get into that market fast. And so when I bought his IP, I decided in the end just to focus on Ireland because of being Irish and being in the US. I'm sorry, in Spain. And I took his IP and we used his IP to launch, but we built our own brand. So what I did was I took my own, based on the momentum I gained from his database, from his IP, we created our own brand and our own IP. And we already had momentum. They knew my trainers, they knew my business, they knew my company. So it was easy to transition into our own IP and leave his, I wouldn't say on the side, but we did. We sort of, because that was his IP, I wasn't going to use his IP. But what made it clunky, for the long answer there, but what made it clunky for me was I didn't know what I was doing. I just kind of put it all together and I knew licensing was what I wanted to do. I didn't want to franchise, though in Spain it's different rules. It's a real nightmare here. It was a Spanish-based company that I started. And our market was all the Spanish-speaking countries. So I didn't want to do it either. I didn't want to have, what I did was I certified people with our own IP in those different countries. So when I know now what Jan and Paul can do, I just let gaps, right? It worked, but it's so much work. And I knew how to make it work because concept's not difficult, really. You must, Paul and Jan will say the concept's not difficult, but it's the small pieces that can trip you up. And it was the small pieces that it worked out well. I made quite a bit of money from that. I'm very happy with everything. But if I had known all the little small steps that they teach, that's the part where they teach these things that you think that one little thing they tell you or one little trick or one little contact they have or part of their network is what makes it faster. And yeah, it did work for me, but I know I could have done merchandise. I could have done so much more. Even the coaching part, I'm a solopreneur. I just going to just do my own thing. And I just go and I learn and I read and I just go do it. I would have loved to have someone like them on my side, or coaching or somebody, even like, I won't say me, but I've been there and done that. And I think, my gosh, you need to, think about this. That's all, right? Think about that. But where I missed was it worked, but it's like, okay, how do I say it? So it's like a Wright Brothers. I built a Wright Brothers plane and it flew for 100 meters, 100 feet. If I had talked to them before that, my plane would have gone, across the country. So that's the difference. It didn't fail. It could have been designed better. It just didn't, and I didn't have the support systems in place. I just flew solo. I didn't really have a great coach or a great mentor, but that's just my ego, arrogance, being a young man. Nothing could stop me. So that was my stumbling block was just not getting it fine tuned and fast enough. And that's the parts that were missing for me.
That sounds great. So, going back to the franchise thing, I think the franchise thing probably makes more sense in regards to, and maybe not, but the facilities themselves, because I plan on having 3 that I own, and then and then
I love
that would be franchised out to others possibly, but maybe staying franchised for the training, it doesn't make sense. So just make sure that they understand that I'm not stuck on that word.
It's being recorded. I'm going to transcribe it. It'll be the mind map. Yeah, I'll remind them. You know, I can understand that. You like that word. You use that word. It's okay. And they won't get stuck like, oh, what are you doing? You don't talk like that. That's not the way they are. But yeah, the physical locations are great. I am curious how that's going to unfold, what they come back with that, because that's a different, not a different model, but that's a different. It's physical assets. There's commercial. There's physical assets you have to invest in, and someone's going to have to manage those properties, all that. Or maybe it'll be maybe you'll do something that's really. It'll be a lovely situation where you're renting or something. Maybe you're thinking this way, renting, or it's not your facility yet, but you're testing the waters with the concept in a location. And so you're not committed to a physical property in a location. So it's the right place, right idea, right concept. And location.
That's something that would take more years to put together.
Exactly. Okay.
Yeah.
You got that.
It's not that I have the facility right now. It's just that the goal is that ultimately there will be a facility related to these types of services that I provide, and that they'll be unique in regards to what they offer, that people will want to use them for a number of different purposes. But
I love it. And I'm sure it'll be amazing if you have your Japanese, you have your Southeast Asian, your Korean, Japanese influence, and your wife's Japanese. I'm sure it's going to be pretty amazing. My wife is Filipina, so kind of, she's been tainted with the American thing, but she's still okay. But no, she's lovely, but very, very Asian. And so I appreciate
the Filipinos. There's a real soft place in my heart for the Filipinos, because every place that I've worked around the world that I've had associates that were Filipinos, my heart goes out to them, because they work so hard and they're so happy and they're always smiling, even though people are treating them like crap. And I was trying to figure out how come the Filipinos are so good at what they do, and I found the 7 M's of service, and it basically helps people. They learn the servant leadership through these 7 M's, and the M's are of course Tagalog words, but I have that as part of my
That's beautiful. Yeah, she tolerates me, man. She's got to be a saint, because if my wife still hangs out with me. I'm so blessed. You're absolutely right. I know quite a few, through her Filipinos, and I know quite a few in the States, and just magnificent. So I'm very blessed to have a Filipino wife, because she's just, she still hangs out with me. So she's got to be okay. Hey, John, I gotta roll, buddy. Sorry, man.
No, I gotta call. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Have a good one. I'll get this out to Janet and Paul.
Okay, goodbye.
See you, buddy. Bye-bye.